Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I think you know where we are. I don't think I need to say the name. And we'll have a walk down here to show you what it's like, and then we'll continue down Beach Road and we'll walk right through the weekend market while we have a chat about current and recent ST and LT price changes. But before we get into the current prices, let me just explain to you, because some of you won't know, why the ST and LT prices had skyrocketed over the last few years. I know some of you will say, greed. Well, yes and no. There's much more to it than that. It isn't just the greed of the Thai bar owners or girls or anything. There's more to it than that. So there are about maybe 4 or 5 reasons if you go through it, which we're going to just go through it now, and I'll explain a few things to you you may not be aware of. Up until early last year, the prices had increased over the previous 10 years about tenfold. And that's not just inflation, it's way beyond inflation. So I've been coming here for about 20 years. So let me just take you back to January 2011, which is when it all started to change. Before 2011, prices just increased at the normal inflation rates, just like everywhere else in the world. Before 2011, nearly every new girl who came to work in Pattaya was a total farm fresh newbie who knew virtually nothing about the city except what she'd been told by the 1 or 2 girls from her Isan village who had already been working in Pattaya beer bars. And the wages in this girl's village at that time would have been about 10,000 baht a month. So to hear from these girls that there was a chance of earning probably 3 times plus that was amazing. So when a farm fresh newbie decided to give it a try, she would inevitably go to the same beer bar as the girl in her village who she had befriended. So all the beer bars in Pattaya were stacked full of pretty young farm fresh newbies, and at that time they were more than happy with 1K LT. Don't forget that ST was virtually non-existent in those days. Even the drop-dead stunning gorgeous girls would have to spend at least 1 year working in a beer bar, learning the ropes about Pattaya and working for 1K LT while she's learning. And eventually the best of these girls would graduate to a go-go bar, where she could earn about 50% more. And that's how it was for decades before 2011. That is where Pattaya got its reputation from those days. I keep mentioning 2011, so what changed in 2011? Well, in January 2011, Samsung launched the Galaxy One, the first affordable smartphone in Thailand. The iPhones were just too expensive for Thais. And this arrival coincided with the arrival of the Thai language Facebook. So the information highway just arrived in Isan, and it didn't matter that there were only maybe a couple of smartphones in the village. The cat was out of the bag. So this new generation of tech-savvy newbies learnt everything about Pattaya without even setting a foot out of their village. The learning the ropes phase of working in a beer bar for a year before graduating to a go-go was replaced by learning it all from Thai Facebook while still staying in their village. I remember about 8 years ago, I was chatting to a 19-year-old in a walking street go-go who had just started work the week before. And I asked her why she'd chosen that particular club. expecting the usual answer of "My friend from my village worked here." But instead she said she'd checked out all of the go-go's in Pattaya on Facebook, and this was the one she liked best. But she knew no one there at all. Not a single person. She just walked in the door and chatted to the mama-san and got the job. That would never have happened if she hadn't checked everything out first on Facebook. Never before. So that's the first reason why many young girls disappeared from the beer bars, and the cheap 1K LT with a pretty young girl dried up. Now reason number 2 was that some bright spark of an ex-mama-san had the idea of setting up an agency to supply girls, mainly to go-go's, who were having at that time a problem finding girls because of the increase in the number of go-go's, and there were not enough girls to go around. Now these agencies advertised all over Thai language social media, promising high wages, and they cornered the market for the best looking girls. They even had scouts searching all the beer bars, looking for any pretty newbies who had slipped through the net, and they propositioned them, saying, "Come work for us and you'll make a fortune." And they basically hoovered them up out of the beer bars, leaving only the older ladies in the beer bars who they didn't want. Then of course these agencies rented out the girls to the go-go's at up to 1,000 baht a night. So that meant that the go-go's had to increase their bar fines from what had been before around 600 baht a night to 1,000 or 1,500 to cover the agency costs. Nothing else. If the go-go's didn't use the agencies, then they just didn't have enough girls to open. So we, the customers, ended up paying the agency's fees, and that's another big increase in the prices. Now moving on to the third reason for this increase in prices, and it's probably responsible for the biggest ST and LT price hike of all, and that is directly down to the Oriental peculiarity of not wanting to lose face. Why, you ask? Okay, let me explain. In very recent years, only going back 4, maybe 5 years, we saw an influx of Japanese, Korean and Chinese from Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore, all quite wealthy people, and they started to arrive in Pattaya. And they came from a culture where working girls were very expensive. And in their culture, you don't barter the price for something like a working girl. You just accept it. Now when these guys came to Pattaya and they asked the price for STLT to the girl or the mama-san, the guys did not want to lose face by implying that they couldn't afford the girl. So whatever price was quoted, they just accepted it. Because at the beginning it was cheap for them compared to their own country. So they always just agreed the price without question, to show they had money, to show they could afford it. To barter would have been to lose face. Well, it didn't take the girls, and especially the mama-sans, long to catch on to this fact, and they started putting higher prices and higher prices on the menu. ST and LT prices went through the roof, to the point where they became more expensive than equivalent type clubs in Europe. And the prices went up to 3,000 baht ST, 5,000 baht LT. So that's the point that we were at just over a year ago. Now coming back to the present day, just over a week ago, before the present lockdown, the few go-go's on Walking Street which were left open and had maybe 5 or 6 customers only, they still wouldn't drop their drinks prices. Like a Coca-Cola was 120 baht, that's $4. Bottled beer was 150 baht, that's $5. And the lady drinks were 200 baht, that's $7. And the bar fine was still unchanged at 1,000. So they would not drop their prices, these go-go bars. However, there was a huge change in the ST and LT prices. The girls had realized there was no choice. Even though the bars wouldn't do it, the girls would and did. But only if the price was negotiated directly with the girl and cut the mama-san out of the equation. So the current price, just before this lockdown, is something like, from a go-go, what used to be 3,000 ST is 1,200. And from normal bars and gents clubs, it's 800 to 1,000. And LT, which used to be 5,000, is now 2,000. Now, these prices are accurate and correct. I should know, I live here. Okay? In fact, the girls have got so desperate that they've either got money and they've gone home, or they really need to stay, they are desperate. So these girls have ended up leaving the go-go's because there's no customers. And there's no customers because the people who are here are expats and they know the score and they won't pay stupid prices like the holiday people would pay. So these girls are now moving from go-go's to gents clubs. That's where they've all gone. And there's lots of them working now in gents clubs. And they're like ST 800 to 1,000. And last year they were on 3,000. That's the sort of changes we're talking about. Now these sort of prices are pretty much going back to what they were 10 years ago, with one exception, and that is the exchange rate. Of course, if you remember 10 years ago, I mean particularly being English, well in fact it wasn't even 10 years ago, it was 2016 when the price of the English pound dropped. I remember before the Brexit vote in 2016, the baht was 54 to a pound, and then a very short time after the decision to leave the EU, it dropped to at the end it was 38 baht. But then recently it's climbed back up again, and it's now back up to 43. And similar sort of prices have occurred with the US dollar and the Australian dollar as well. And the baht has been very strong in recent years, very strong. But it's weakening now. It seems to be anyway, because if you look, they check the rates now. Definitely, it's gone down a bit, the baht. Now, how long these prices from 10 years ago will last? Maybe just until COVID disappears, but the way it's going, it's not looking like that's going to happen in the very, very near future. It's going to be at least 2022, and it could run on to 2023 easily, couldn't it? So tell me what you think in the comments below. Just tell me what your opinions are about these prices and about what you think will happen with prices. Oh, and something else which I have been asked before, which I'd forgotten to mention, that is beach road prices. If you're wondering what, they had got up to 1,000, hadn't they? They're now half of that. They're now 500. That's what beach road prices are right now. So, and don't forget as well, subscribe and like and share and ring the bell. And tell me if you enjoyed this video. I hope you did. And I'm just going to go in central now. A bit of air conditioning, I think. It's a bit too hot out here. Okay. Thanks very much for watching, guys.